Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and you know one of my first ever popular videos on this channel was when I looked at Sonic.exe, the creepy pasta. Now to understand, I'm actually a Sonic fan, okay? Of course, as you can imagine, alright, being a Sonic fan has always been a tumultuous affair, okay? I like Sonic, alright, let's be real. I play the good games. You know, I play the old Genesis stuff. Sonic Mania blew me away. You know, Sonic Forces, it's like a hemorrhoid in my ass. You know, I kind of tolerate its existence. I don't really go out of my way to play with it. But, you know, anytime a good-looking Sonic game comes out, I get reasonably excited. Look, Sonic is on an upwards trend. We had Sonic Mania. We had Sonic 2 the movie. And you know what? We're about to have one of the most ambitious Sonic games ever made. And you know what? It might put the best Sonic game ever to exist, Sonic 06, to some level of shame. Now, if you haven't heard, Sonic Frontiers is the new sort of game. Worlds will collide in Sonic the Hedgehog's newest adventure. And look at that, looks good, dude. That looks amazing. Look at that. They got a waterfall. They got a pot. They got ponds. All right, you know, you go down a little bit. Look at that. All right, you look at how beautiful that field looks. Look at how it looks at night. All right, now I understand I'm getting a little bit excited for it, but if you ever noticed, man, that's like one biome. They do say they have sizzling deserts. Get excited for some desert action, okay? Woo! All right, Holiday 2022 is when this game's dropping, and luckily, we just managed to get 7 minutes of gameplay. And I want to go over a bit of it, all right? Not all, just a bit. But I wanted to just talk about the Sonic community a little bit. Obviously, there's been a few people that say, Sonic Frontiers looks rough. It looks a little bad. The Sonic community is not that excited, all right? Some of them be like, Sonic Frontiers is looking kind of mid, okay? But then there are some people that are just genuinely really excited for it, and they have like a really positive vibe, and I like it.
What do you call it? Dude, there's platforming here.
See, it's like, you got positivity like that, you never know how to really consume it in one go. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, the history of this goes back to something back in 2015, where I first saw the Sonic Frontiers kite demo. If you don't know what this demo is, effectively, this is, you know, an Unreal Engine 4 world where, like, Sonic the Hedgehog's model is put into it. And initially, I was like, this is what Sonic Frontiers is going to look like. I had this... Cryzenix, the YouTuber, had the exact idea that we all did. He knew how to predict the future. I don't even know if this person got hired, but they basically predicted Sonic Frontiers gameplay that quick. Now, of course, we actually do have the gameplay, and I wanted to just sort of go over a few things with you and just sort of like give my general idea and thoughts on the situation. So here it starts off, you know, it's got like a really nice looking area, okay? Like already I got Shadow of the Colossus PS2 vibes. Now, one thing that I just want to reiterate, watching this gameplay right here, this game is going to come out on the Switch. I can already like smell the Tegra chipset on the Switch burning at the sound of processing the situation. I don't believe the Switch version is going to run this smooth, and I don't believe the world is going to load in this smooth. What I'm seeing over here is probably PC footage, like Xbox development footage in general, just for this game. Of course, the sense of scale for the world, I swear to God, it feels like I'm looking at, like, alpha footage or something for Pokemon Legends Arceus. But yeah, a lot of people have made the Breath of the Wild comparison, and you can't blame them for it. This game's really got that, like, style match down. And of course, I think the comparison for any open world game that comes out, for it to be like, it's just Breath of the Wild again, a little bit out, it's not exactly entirely fair in my opinion. But yeah, this is what the game looks like. And yeah, as you can see, they're just loading things in the distance. I believe this is very early development footage at the moment, right? Like, obviously the game is... The game is probably more finished than this is. This is like when you have to showcase a game, you show them like a several month old build that's functioning on actual products. I'm sure like right now, whatever they're developing is a few months ahead of whatever they're showing. And that's just like generally par for the course for any development. Of course, here we got like a bit more foliage in the situation. You know, there's a little checkpointing to go across. I'm not really noticing too many enemies in the entire area. Like, they don't actually show combat at all. It's really just these on-rail segments where they're just like flying around with Sonic. It's not exactly like super duper mind-blowing, but that's effectively what you're getting. When it comes to the graphics of the area, I think the best like comparison, and I hate the Breath of the Wild stuff, there's a game on the Wii U called Xenoblade Chronicles X. If you ever played that, this is what the actual graphical style really does remind me of. Like, that waterfall looks genuinely beautiful. I think where I'm having a bit of an issue though is like, first off, with Sonic like flying around like that and the camera switches, a lot of those things are automated for the most part, so it's not like what you're doing here is really taxing gameplay wise. I'm surprised that we haven't seen like Sonic destroy a few enemies in the process, but they have focused on like puzzles, for instance. But the puzzles are like really, really easy. Like, for example, look at this one, okay? Like, he just rotates this like 45 degrees to the left and opens the door. Like, I get that this game is probably geared towards a younger audience, but you got to give kids a little bit of credit. They're pretty good at solving puzzles. Like, look at this one. This is an Okami style puzzle where like these three like fire sets, Sonic basically loops around them, all of them, and this solves the puzzle. This is a really good example of the kind of puzzles one will be solving, like the intellectual capacity that seems to be required. So yeah, I mean, as long as you can tie your shoes and remember to breathe in the morning, you should generally be fine for Sonic Frontiers. It's not really taxing too much, but there are upgrades you're picking up, and I think what we're seeing are like health upgrades, stamina upgrades, things like that. I mean, if you're going to make a game that's kind of open world-ish, you need to have like some blocks initially so you can like halt progress of the open world a little bit. This segment right over here is a great example for Sonic gamers because like all it is basically just running in a hamster wheel over and over and over again. Now there's not much else to this other than the fact that that's all we saw, just exploration in this open world and some puzzles. There wasn't really any combat. Honestly, the level design wasn't really blowing me away. I have to believe that the graphics for the game, while I think from a bigger like if you look at it as a whole, it doesn't actually look bad, all right? Like, the graphics are probably better than most other Sonic games I've ever seen out there. The only issue is, like, level design. I mean, when I think of Sonic, I think of zones. Like, I don't just think of, like, Green Hill Zone. I think of, like, Chemical Zone. I think of a lot of these locations that have to exist for Sonic, right? And if they're going to touch a Sonic game that's open world, you got to really commit to having a few open worlds, and especially some that are just balls to the wall, like, eye candy. Like, imagine, for a minute, if you had, like, Casino Zone or something all the way into this engine, that would blow some people away. I think that would be a banger. You gotta have some of that when you're building an open world Sonic game, because if this is basically all we're seeing, the game isn't terribly exciting. And listen, if this game is a failure, okay, for instance, the best silver lining in this is for the first time, Sonic gamers have a full open world Sonic title that they can fully mod and fully do anything. This would literally be some of the best Sonic games on crack with mods out there. I will say, though, I'm excited to see what the Switch version is going to look like, because that's going to need some heavy downgrading to load assets super fast. If this is running on a PC or an Xbox Series development system, and you're still seeing pop-in that close, I actually fear for what the Switch version is going to have. Like, I'm probably going to buy this on PC just to play this on Steam Deck, but I can only imagine without any SSD or, like, the CPU power to process this stuff in, what it's going to look like on lower-end systems. But you know what? This is probably a really early development build. And you know what? I'm going to be positive. I think Sonic Frontiers will be pretty cool. I think it'll be nice. Look, I had a positive mentality for Pokemon Legends Arceus, and for the most part, I enjoyed that game from start to finish, all right? Would I go back to play it again? Probably not. Now, this is a good-looking Sonic game. You know, it's got sort of the right notes. It just needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. Honestly, if they need to delay this a little bit, maybe until like 2023, I'd absolutely be down for that. Just because if you're going to make a Sonic game that's open world, I believe for the first time, make it a banger, call it a day, make it look really nice, and make it something to remember. You got to make a Sonic game that is not just for the Sonic fans, it's also for people who look at it from afar and be like, I want to play that game. That said, though, ladies and gentlemen, that was Sonic Frontiers. I wanted to talk about it. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.